My name is David Kirkland. I'm the Executive Director for the Metropolitan Center for Research on Equity and the Transformation of Schools. I'm also Associate Professor of English and Urban Education at New York University in the Department of Teaching and Learning at the Steinert School for Culture, Education, and Human Development. I'm here to talk to you today about why Black Lives Matter in classrooms and what we can do to begin to reform classroom spaces in ways that value all of our students, particularly those students who are most vulnerable, our young Black and brown youth. We know that throughout our country, we have a crisis within our schools. Black boys, for instance, are more likely to be placed in special education and suspended from school. And we know that this trend of disparity starts early in school, starting in preschool. At 2.9 years old, we begin to see, this gulf of expectations. We begin to see a difference, a definitive difference in the experiences of, young children of color. We know as well that these kids are less likely to graduate high school. They're less likely to experience, AP or college-ready courses. We know as well they're more likely to be forced out of school, that the graduation rates for Black and brown students are abysmal, that dropout rates, that force-out rates, beginning as early as, 7th and 8th grade, by the time they get to high school, can be as high as 80%. Here in New York City, the numbers that we record are about 28% for Black men. In Detroit, Michigan, that number in some schools is as low as 14%, if not lower. And these are the official numbers. We know that the actual numbers may be different. And we know, too, that there is a correlation between the failure that happens in schools, not failing students, but the question, why are we failing students, and what happens in society? The school to prison pipeline, or what my colleagues have called the cradle to grave syndrome. We know that we are failing some students and not succeeding all. And that's why in my own work, I've moved away from conversations about, achievement gaps. What the achievement gap is, it gives us this, tidy metaphor that blames individuals for not being what other individuals are. What the achievement gap suggests is that we normalize whiteness, white standards of achievement, white standards of school experience, though all students don't come to school with those standards. And we blame them for not living up to what they are not. We blame them for not wearing the mask. It's like Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, We Wear the Mask. We wear the mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human God, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh, great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet, but long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise, for we wear the mask. And so the achievement gap is about masking. It's about masking the reality of the problem. It's a deficit theory that blames individuals who are most vulnerable in our society for not achieving. And yet we've already set them up for failure. My colleague, Gloria Latson-Billings, instead of talking about achievement gaps, she began to talk about education debts. Here the question changes from why aren't those kids achieving? Why is there a gap between, kids who are succeeding and those who are failing? The question changes to why are we paying some students in education that's owed them, and we're failing to pay other students in education that's owed them? This gets into the question of value. It gets into a conversation of value. What it essentially says is that the students that we pay in education, we see as valuable. Their lives matter. But for the students who we don't pay in education, for the students who ride the other side of the debt, we're saying something that's pernicious. We're saying that their lives don't value. Their lives don't merit value. And the question that I have is how can we begin to change the conversation? How can we begin to understand education differently? How can we make all lives matter within our classrooms? How can we specifically make Black lives matter within our classrooms? This will involve disrupting systems of disparity that articulate the politics of our classrooms. It will also mean clinging toward culturally responsive, or what my colleague Django Paris has called culturally sustaining pedagogy. It will mean that we use restorative practices within classrooms. It will also mean that we move beyond the classroom, that we put classrooms in conversation with society in order to interrupt those legacies of oppression that afflict so many of our students, legacies of racism and economic oppression, xenophobia and sexism. My sense is that we can do it. But the only way that we can do it is if we, affirm, if we believe that Black lives matter. Because we have an ideological gap. And that ideological gap, is seated within, the assumptions about people of color that we do not aspire, that we cannot learn, that we do not think. What I'm here to say is that we can, and we can do all of those things. But it's going to take a greater investment on people who care about children, people who care about humanity, people who care about our society, to insist that our students' lives matter, regardless of their skin color. It's going to take an insistence that Black lives matter in classrooms.